Welcome to the Ultimate Tank Showdown. Today, we're putting some of the most famous tanks from World War II against each other. No fancy modern stuff. We're talking real steel monsters made during a real war, not some computer game tanks. We've got the tough tanks from the Eastern Front, the workhorses of the Western Allies, and the interesting tanks of the Axis powers. Some call them legends, others just big chunks of metal. But me, I think they're super interesting. So get comfortable, grab a drink if you want, and get ready for a real close-up look at these amazing machines. Let's go! First up, the Soviet T-34. Think of it as the AK-47 of tanks. Simple, tough, and it just kept going. The Germans got a nasty surprise when they first saw this thing. It was like bringing a spoon to a knife fight, and then suddenly, BAM! The other guy pulls out a machine gun. The T-34's angled armor was groundbreaking. Its 76mm gun, a real powerhouse. And those special springs, they could handle anything the Russian planes or a German 88 could throw at them. Next, the American Sherman. Some people call it a death trap. But me? I liked the Sherman. It was reliable, useful, and they made tons of them. Think of it as the Ford of the tank world. The Sherman might not have been the biggest or the strongest, but it got the job done. And that 75mm gun, don't underestimate it. It was powerful, especially when you had a whole bunch of Shermans firing at the enemy. The British Churchill VII. This tank looks like it was designed by a bunch of construction workers. It's big, it's blocky, and it's got more armor than a castle, but don't let that fool you. The Churchill was super tough. It could climb over anything, cross deep rivers, and that 75mm gun, or even the huge 95mm on later models, was dangerous. It might not have been the fastest, but it was like a bulldog. Once it grabbed you, it wouldn't let go. Chapter 4, Panzer IV-H, the German workhorse. Now, we have the German Panzer IV-H. I know what you're thinking. Aren't you supposed to hate German tanks? And usually you'd be right, but even I have to admit the Panzer IV was a great tank. It was the German version of the Sherman, reliable, adaptable, and it saw action everywhere. That long 75mm gun was powerful, able to destroy most Allied tanks from far away. Of course, it still had problems, like, for example, the fact that it was built by, the Germans. Chapter 5, the Hosei, Japan's forgotten giant, the Japanese Ho-Chi. This is a tank that doesn't get much attention. It's like the forgotten middle child of World War II tanks, but don't be fooled, this thing was strong. Sure, it was made for fighting in jungles, not open fields. But with its powerful 105mm howitzer, it was still dangerous. Think of it as a samurai warrior stuck in a world of knights. It might not have been the most practical weapon, but it was deadly in the right hands. Chapter 6, the L-33 per cc, Italy's surprise. Finally, we have the Italian L-33 per cc. Now, I know what you're thinking. Italian tanks, is that a joke? And usually you'd be right, but the L-33 per cc was different. It was designed to do one thing, destroy other tanks. And with its giant 90mm gun, it did that pretty well. It was like putting a super fast engine in a small car. Sure, it looked a bit silly, but it was fast. That's it for today's Tank Showdown. We've seen some of the most famous and some of the least known tanks of World War II. From the tough T-34 to the surprisingly good L-33 per cc. These machines represent the best of 1900s engineering, or at least some of them do. But which one would win in a real fight? That's a tough question. It would depend on the land, the strategy, and the skill of the tank crews. Let us know in the comments which tank you think would win and why. And don't forget to like and subscribe for more epic comparisons.